Oh,
Hello, good morning, everyone.
hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hi.
Welcome. I'm Toby from Ealing and Hounslow CVS, and welcome to the Ealing Data Workshop. We're joined today from Ealing Council. We've got Rajiv and Ryan, who's going to be delivering this session. So thank you very much to them for taking the time. And thanks for everyone else for joining. I hope you're going to find this session useful. There's nothing more important when it comes to funding bids to deliver information about exactly who your users are or your target users. So this is why it's so good that Ealing Council have got this access to this information. And yeah, I'm really keen to see how we can all access it to make sure that we have all that information at our fingertips. So I'm just going to start with some housekeeping rules. If everyone can just put themselves on mute, I'm sure there'll be time to ask questions at the end. If everyone can start by just putting in the chat their name and where they're from and which organisation they're from, then we know we've got a record of who's attending this training today. I'm also joined by my colleagues, Noika, who looks after funding and development for Ealing, and also Ian, who does a similar role for Hounslow. So I'm just going to put my details in. Just got a couple more people just joining us. We'll just give it a couple more minutes and then we can start. Noika, would you like to just say hello to everyone for a second? Great for everyone to meet you if they haven't already.
Yeah, I was just following ground rules. Hi, everyone. I'm Nyoka. I'm Nyoka Lewis, and I'm the new Funding and Group Development Officer for Ealing, with Ealing and Hounslow CVS. So welcome today, and I hope you find this session useful. I won't take too much time because I know Rajiv and Ryan have a lot of useful information to give us, and we'll have a bit of a chat at the end. Welcome again. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. It looks like everyone's in the room now. So yes, over to you, Rajiv and Ryan.
Right. Thanks, Toby, and thanks, Nyoka, for inviting us to this, hopefully what's going to be a very, very useful session on our Ealing Data website. So we're going to do a double act between myself and Ryan. I'm just going to introduce the site and give a bit of a background on how this came about, what it is, and then Ryan will take you through all the detail of how to access the site, how to navigate around it, and what purposes it can be used for. So as I said, Ealing Data is an online data platform or repository. It came about as an Ealing local strategic partnership initiative, which has a range of multi-partner activities or work streams, one of which is customer insight. And under that work stream, the LSP wanted to have a data portal or a platform which can be used to access all the data about the borough and small areas, and also to host any local data that we would like, and thereby share that kind of information, which will be useful for everyone. So this is a public-facing website. It can be accessed by any member of the public using the URL data.ealing.gov.uk. And of course, it is accessible to all of our community partners and all the other partner organizations. It is a managed service. It's an out-of-the-box solution which we have bought from a company called Esri UK. They are one of the largest providers of mapping solutions and data solutions across the globe. And previously, they used to have an arm called Instant Atlas. That's the underlying tool that provides this functionality. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Instant Atlas, but that's the tool that builds or provides the data underneath this site. It's based on a very large database of more than 40 different data sets that are sourced from national bodies like the ONS, regional bodies like the Greater London Authority, and then we have lots of data from Public Health England, the ONS partner website called NOMIS, which hosts most of the or all of the ONS data, including data from the census and the various surveys that ONS carries out. We can also host and share local data and reports on the website where we have access to those. For example, we have some of our joint strategic needs assessments documents, which are carried out between the council and our health partners. And they provide a local picture of need according to a range of very specific themes and conditions that residents can have. So you are free to access those as well and look through a very specific theme if needed. And the other good thing is we don't have to update this data and find the data source and continuously keep them updating or keep checking whether it's the latest or not, because the underlying databases are automatically updated by Esri UK as soon as it's released. So it's usually just a couple of days after a data set is released that it gets updated on the website. So what you'll see there is the latest that's available in the public domain. So all of it, in terms of the standard reports that you'll see, is public-facing open source data, and that's what you can access there. Can you move to the next slide, please, Ryan?
No problem.
Yeah, thanks. So just outlining the key aims of this session. So once we've been through this, hopefully you'll be fully familiar with how to get the detailed statistical information about Ealing organized into key themes. I think from the aims of this session, which is largely to support funding bids from community organizations, which usually need a lot of background data on how the borough or a particular area is performing according to certain indicators. It's quite useful that we have those themes built in already. So that's a key feature of Ealing Data. And then if you're after very small and custom areas, for example, if you're just after a very a combination of what they call local super output areas in census terminology, then you can look at that, combine them, and then create a combined report for them and share and download, which is very useful. And finally, you can just search for any data that sits in that comprehensive data catalog by just using the search function on the site. Plus, we have a couple of other features which Ryan will go through in a moment. So I think that's the overview of Ealing Data and the background. And I'll hand over to Ryan at this point to take you through the details. So yeah, over to you, Ryan. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks very much for that, Rajiv. So the way I'm going to show it to you today, I've got a couple of pre-prepared slides, and all of the information that I'm going to show today, we've prepared slides that detail and can show you this later on if you miss anything. But I'm going to go through the first few slides and then tab across to the live site to just show you it in action. But everything I'm showing you is on the slides as well when they get distributed later. So just to show, this is Ealing Data here. We've had this now for just under a year, I suppose. So this is the site, and the main. We try to keep it as easy and intuitive to use as possible. So when you're looking at the main navigation menu, you get taken back to home from wherever you are in the site. If you do get into the weeds of any of the data, you can always get back up to that main level. The themes are the key part of the site, and the thing that we think a lot of people are going to come back to most frequently. The drop-down menu there allows you to access one of the key data themes, which we'll cover exactly what those are in a minute. The custom area reporter will probably be most useful for small area bids. Rajiv mentioned it earlier, where you're able to select individual areas, and then that customizes one of the themes based on that area. So say, for example, you wanted to look at just Southall instead, then you can combine the 4 different wards and get one of the theme profiles produced that is based on just those areas that you selected. The Data Explorer is our catalog of all data. I say ours, it's mostly ONS data and all the background data that goes into this site. So the themes are reports that are based on that data, but they're pre-built reports based on specific samples of that data. So there's a vast array of data that isn't in the themes that you can go into the Data Explorer and find at your leisure. It works similarly to how some of the data explorers would work on the London data site as well. Next up, we have our JSNA section. This is a little different to some of the first 4 sections, which were pre-built in the software. The JSNA one is a host of PDF reports that we've done. The JSNA format may change in the future, but at the moment, that is a way of us hosting our own reports on there. At the moment, that's not behind any security or anything because that is up, but that same functionality can be used to host private documents on there as well. But we're not limiting anything to one set of individuals yet. Next up, we have our coronavirus dashboard, which I'll show you towards the end of the meeting. There are 2 different types of dashboards in there, which we'll cover, but one of them is pre-built by Azri and another one is built by Power BI, which we're able to host directly in here, and people can use as if it was directly on the Power BI site, which is a really useful feature of this site, that we can integrate that so easily. And then we won't cover this in detail, but there's an about section there which details the accessibility information for the site, our team's contact details, which are also in this PDF as well. So these are the key themes that we've got, and they appear front and center on that homepage of the site. So we've got children and young people, crime, deprivation, economy and employment, environment, health and social care, housing, and finally population. These were the kind of key 8 areas that most of the data is grouped into. When you click on any one of those links that I'm showing you on the screen there, that will take you to a pre-built report that covers the key statistics for that area. And all those are pre-built, they can be downloaded. And most key, when you're clicking on them from there, that is for the whole borough, just from that point. Now, just to the right-hand side here underneath that, we've pre-selected 4 key variables that a lot of people are asking for. So they're all front and center on the site. It includes population, number of businesses, and with the unfortunate impacts of the pandemic over the last year, the persons claiming unemployment benefits and the unemployment rate. As Rajiv said, these are all updated automatically. So when you go on the site there, you're seeing the latest available information for those 4 key metrics. And now this one will be quite useful. So the quick ward profile map allows you to get any one of those themes there, but for a particular ward. And this is where I'm going to tab across and start showing you the live site. So if you give me one moment, I will tab across to the live version, or I will try to. Ealing Data, right. Right, can everyone still see that, or have I managed to break it?
Looks fine.
Okay, thank you. So this ward profile here, when you highlight it, it will tell you what ward you're looking at. You see the site is also reactive, so I have a slightly wider screen, so you might be seeing it a little stretched at the moment. So say I wanted to look for Perivale, I'd click on Perivale there, and then that brings me to a report page here that gives me a custom version of the report and highlights to show me which area I'm looking at. So this one here isn't just one theme, but it's all of the themes, key highlights from all of those different themes. So you can see here, it shows you key statistics for population, economy, housing, children, young people, crime. Up at the top here, you can say, right, I want to select a ward profile. That's the only one you can do at this point. But you can also select any different area. So you don't have to go back to that home page and select another area. You can just go here and say I want to look at Acton Central now as well. And after a few seconds, it will load in and show you the particular LSOAs and the ward that we're looking at. So LSOAs are probably the lowest level of geographic information that you're going to have in here. Some of the smaller data sets will have it, but these pre-built reports will usually just go down to LSOA level as a standard. So these reports tend to cover a few key information about each different one. So on population here, you've got total projected population, then broken down by male and female. If you want to know any of the metadata for that information, the I here will bring up all the information about where that comes from and when it was published and who did it, who owns the copyright, that sort of thing, how frequently it's updated. So the population projections are only updated once a year, and they're done by the GLA. So you press the cross to get rid of that. This is one of the key ways that information is shown here. So it's just a small infographic about the population, but there's a couple of other different ways information is displayed, mostly in reactive charts. So if you hover over anything, it will tell you exactly what the percentage is. So for example, here it's showing that in Acton Central, 67.9% of the population are aged 16 to 44. And that shows you a direct comparison to Ealing and London in most instances. And similar to here, you can see the population projection. Acton Central is the main focus, so that's the bars in there, whereas it shows comparison lines for Ealing and London as well. Generally on these reports, Ealing and London are the pre-built comparators that you're going to have for whatever area is selected. If you're in just an Ealing report, then you'll have London as a pre-built comparator. So you can see quite a few other bits of information in here, and all of these are the latest available. Right, so if I go to one of the main themes, so I'll go to population for now. This is incredibly similar to what we were just looking at, but there are two key differences. Actually, I'll say with three, but when in the top right-hand corner of any of these reports that you're looking at, you can hover over and see this print icon. So from that print icon, you can download a PDF version of any selection that you've made or any report that you're looking at within this site. You can quite easily get back to it any time, but if you want to download it, that's how you do it. Now, when we're looking at just one of the custom themes here, sorry, my cat has just jumped in front of the keyboard. Come on, Fudge. There you go, fella. Sorry about that. I suppose it wouldn't be a Zoom meeting if there wasn't a cat involved. Right, so this is one of the custom themes here, and this is just for one area. So the previous one that I showed you covered all 8. This one goes into more detail. So you have a lot more detail about population projections. You can see some of the tables there as well. On a side note about the tables, if you see any one of these charts, in the bottom right, there is a table icon here, and then you can download any of that information at any time. So if you see a chart, you can download any version of that for yourself to use. So this is more detail about population, and you can download that at the same time. But you can also create a map of that, or any of the data within that theme by clicking on the map in the top right. And this is where some of the mapping functionality comes really in handy. So by default, this one is showing persons all ages. So at the very top there, it tells you what you're looking at. In the top right here, it allows you to play through historical data for that area. So this is the population for the borough. And if I click play there, it'll then run through 2013, 14, 15, and it generally shows you the population changing over time. Now, you can't download that play, but you can download and just change the date that you want to look at in the top corner there. So if you want to then change any of the data that you're looking at, so we're currently looking at persons all ages, you can click onto data here and then pick any population-based data from that theme. So this is all information that would have been in that report. So if we wanted to look at males all ages instead, we can click on that, close, and this data is now showing male all ages as well, which is not terribly different. So I'll pick something that's a little different. We'll go by ethnicity, and we'll pick Asian or Asian British. So you can see there the population has changed, so it's showing that the highest Asian or Asian British population is towards Southall. So one of the things that it doesn't show you by default is a legend, but that is available. So in the bottom corner here, you can see legend, and that'll show you there the different ranges that you've got there. When you go to do a printout, that legend will be available. It's just not available by default when you're looking at it here. Once again, if you want to change if you want to look at a table too, you can click on table here. And after a few minutes, well, not minutes, hopefully seconds, it will show you the population there by ward. And you can once again download that, as you can on almost every screen that's available on the site. So classify is an interesting one. This allows you to change the way that the data is broken up. So you can either split it by equal intervals, which is the default, or you can just have it go high to low. You can have it centered on, you can just show extremes. So I'll change it to high to low at the moment. And then you can see the legend has changed as well. So it's just a sliding scale now rather than those equal brackets. So these are highly customizable depending on what you want to do. Now, I won't do it for loading times here, but if you do click on print, you'll end up with a A4 page where in the top part of it, it will show you the map. It will show you the field that you're looking at, the year that you're looking at, and then underneath it will show you the legend that you were picking as well. So you'll always get a legend when you want to do a PDF printout of any one of these. Okay, and then if we click back to reports here, that goes back to, again, you can get back to that individual report area. So the key difference is, just to recap there, when you go to one of the themes here, you'll see the overall one. So this is for the borough as a whole. The second one is the mapping, which we were looking at. And then the third one there is that custom area report that we're looking at. So that's just another way of getting to one of those custom areas, or one of those pre-built custom area reports. So on that note, we'll then move on to the actual custom area reporter. So this is probably the big data innovation of the site and the coolest feature, as it were. So it looks similar, and by default, it looks at LSOA. But from here, you can click on any particular area that you want. It'll highlight in yellow, and then you can download any one of those pre-built themes that then focuses solely on the area that you have selected. Now, if you hold down the control button, you can click on multiple different areas across the borough, and then the report will cover just those areas too. So you can clear your selection using that at the top, and that gets rid of it all. In the top right, you can change it to wards if you wanted to pick just wards. So if I wanted all of Southall, I'd pick the bottom 5 here. And then any report that I do would be effectively the town of Southall rather than those 5 individual wards. It aggregates all of the data up in the back end. So if I clear my selection again, there's a few other different ways that you can select areas. There's a polygon here, which is one of the most fun. So you just draw a section here, and it selects all the areas that that box intersects with. So that's a key thing when you're picking this, actually. So any areas that you're selecting, you can't pick parts of LSOAs. You have to pick, if you have one postcode that's in that LSOA, it will unfortunately pick that whole LSOA. It's just to do with the way the data is structured. So the underlying data doesn't go to smaller areas than that. So just be aware of that when you're selecting areas. So you can see I selected this pre-drawn square here, and it's picked anything that that square intersects with. So you can zoom in and be a little more accurate with that as well, using the zoom function here. And then you see I've redrawn it and it's selected nothing because I just clicked off to the side. But if I just wanted that, it would then just pick those 2 LSOAs that we've got there. Now you can also use a box and a circle as well, which are pretty similar. The box it's just not drawn. The circle is just an expanding circle that goes out from wherever you clicked. And something that some of you might find useful is this radius function. So when you click on radius, it allows you to click on an area and then says, how far do you want to select from that point that you clicked on? So I'm going to go with kilometers here and say I want to pick everything for 2 kilometers. And it will show you, it's then clicked everything from 2 kilometers from the center point where I clicked, which is quite a cool feature. Now, just to show you what one of the reports looks like, I'll pick a smaller area to begin with, just a few LSOAs in Southall. Sorry, cancel. You need to go and click on the type of interaction you want to make before you click on it. So let me clear my selection first. And I've now picked these 2 wards here. And I'll download a children and young people LSOA one. So that will pop up momentarily. So now you've got a children and young people report just for the selected areas. So right up at the top, it will zoom in and show you exactly what areas that you've got selected. So you can see the 2 areas are slightly darker colored here where I've selected them. You can zoom out a little if you like, because it does zoom in quite tight on the areas that you're doing. And then when you print it from the top right-hand corner or share it to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, or Google+, amazingly is still linked on there. But the print report will be the main way that that you'd share these, and that will print out as a PDF. And this is similar. So this is a children and young people report, but instead of it being based on the ward, it's based on the areas that you selected previously. So I will go back now, and we go back to the custom area reporter there. So that's probably one of the most powerful sections of the site. You can yeah, so the next bit that we're going to look at now is the data reporter. So I'll click on that now. This data reporter, as I said earlier, acts as just a library for the information that we've got there. So you can see some of the things that come up pre-built. This works simply by typing in the field that you want to look for. So I'll go for population here. And after a few moments, it will have loaded all the fields that it finds meet the criteria population. Now, you can be a lot more specific with the information that you want here if you know that what the population, what it's called. And you see here, it shows you which ones it's found that meet that population criteria. So once you've got that, you can either favorite it. So if you click on favorite there, that'll be added to your favorites. Now, that isn't to do with sign-ins. The favoriting function works based on the IP of the device that you're logging in on. So if you just go directly onto this site using your mobile phone, for example, and then you say favorite it that way, that favorite unfortunately won't follow you to your desktop device, but it will remain there when you look at it on your mobile phone. So just in the top corner here, you can see favorites, and there's a few that I selected earlier. And the new one that I've selected has been added to the very top of that list. And then there are 3 that I picked earlier, and you can see each one of those highlighted. From here, you can just uncheck the star, and that will get rid of it. And once again, you can click on the eye to get a bit more information about it. And this is where this information shines. So give it a moment to load. So from any one of these data sets, you can see the metadata, the data behind it, another custom map just based on that particular data, a time series, and a ranked bar chart. All of these are incredibly customizable depending on how far you want to go. So the metadata, once again, it just tells you when it's last updated. The data here shows you, in this particular series, we've got population projections going from 2020 past 2036 that you can see on here. So, and we've got this for every borough in London. So there's quite a lot of information to show on there, but in the top here, you've got a filter that allows you to change that. So say I only wanted to see the information for the next 5 years, you can then cut that and it changes which ones you're looking at there. Features here allows you to, the terminology is a little different to some other sites. So the filter will automatically allow you to change what's being shown across here. So in this case, it happened to be years, but in some other data sets that could be different. So the filters effectively cuts the number of columns that you've got, whereas the features cuts the number of rows that you're looking at. So features here will then, in this case, show you boroughs, but in some other cases, it could be the wards of Ealing as well, if you just want to show them too. So I'm going to select Ealing and Harrow. Click apply, and now you can see that I've filtered it to just see the population projection for all males through 2020 and 2025 for the two respective boroughs here. Now, if I click onto a map, give it a couple of seconds and it will load. It's a little bit of a bigger data set, so it is not showing, yeah, there it is, it's loaded in. So you can see here it's showing the overall population set for the two different boroughs that I'd selected. If I go back to features here and just say clear selections, you can see this automatically shows the whole of London there, rather than just the ones that I selected. The key thing is anything that you're picking here will follow through depending on what different tab that you're looking at, so long as you don't go off the page and go somewhere else. So if I go back to the data here, it now shows every borough again. So I'll filter back to, this time I'll bring in Croydon as well, just not to exclude anyone. If I go back to that map now, you can then see the three areas are shown on there. Now, if I click on time series, you can then see a line chart that shows you the changing of that information over time and which area that you're looking at. So Ealing is green in this, and if you hover over any data point, it will show you what's there. And lastly, there is a ranked bar chart that you can have that shows you the population in whichever year and where those different areas rank by comparison to each other. So you can see that Harrow's projected to have the smallest population of the three and Croydon the largest by 2043. But you can then select any year from that at the same time. And you can see the picture's not too much different in 2020. Okay, so that's a whistle-stop tour of the information that is available there, and it will change slightly depending on whichever data set you're looking at. If the data set doesn't have quite as many historical time periods, there wouldn't be a trend in that particular instance, and the data could be organized a little differently. But by and large, that's the way the data will work. So the filter will if we go back to the data for a moment, that filter will cut the number of columns that you're looking at, and the features will cut the number of rows that you're looking at in general. It might vary per data set. Okay, so that covers a lot of the way that the site works, and happy to take some questions at the end if anyone has any. But for now, I'll move on to the Joint Strategic Needs Assessment. So the JSNA section of the site is a way of hosting pre-built reports just in one area, because we previously had them some of them on the main Ealing Data site and then some of them in other places, but we wanted to host them all in one place that we could just direct people to. So you can see all of the different chapters here, and at the moment they're all PDFs. So if you click on any one of those, it will allow you to download the PDF there. I mentioned it, and we've also got links to our annual public health report and the pharmaceutical needs assessment, both of which link back to the main Ealing Data website. The key functionality for this page is essentially as a host for any of those files that we have. So this is something that we're looking to expand over time as we do more reports, but you can add different sections here at the top. So we've added the JSNA for the moment, but we could add any different area in the future. And I mentioned it earlier, but there is a facility to lock some of those behind a login, so that only specific authorities or people could look at it. But we've not done that yet. We've kept the entire site open for everybody. Okay, so this is just a simple folder system. So you scroll down to whichever section that you want, you open it up, and then you can see what documents are available. So you can see here there are actually two available for that. So the children's was done in 2017 and the adults for oral health was done in 2014. So the next type of data that we can host is shown through the coronavirus dashboard. So this is obviously something that we've been pushing quite a lot, and this is how we've been promoting not promoting, but sharing the statistics about how Ealing is doing battling the pandemic with the general public. So the link to this goes out with the Around Ealing newsletter, I believe. So the first link that we've got here is one that our team has built. And a member of the team called Parallel, actually really talented at this type of thing. She pre-built this. So all of this was customized based on the NHS data that we've got available that we're allowed to share at a public level. So on the top side here, you've got the weekly rate of COVID-19 cases in Ealing for Ealing, Northwest London, London and England. And you can click on that and interact and see how many cases we've had in total. We have a map down here to show how we're doing as a rate per 100,000 in London boroughs. So that then can be filtered for the latest week. So unfortunately, Hounslow has the highest rate at the moment, but luckily everything's on the downtrend from where it was. A bit of commentary about how we're doing, the rate of individuals being tested, and unfortunately, we also have the weekly death rate there as well. So thankfully, the numbers have come down quite significantly from where they were, as you can see. And then a bit of information about that there too. So that's the coronavirus report that we've built, and that is an embedded Power BI sheet. So that's something we hope to expand in the next couple of months and years, where we build Power BI data sets and then embed them on here for people to use. The functionality there will vary depending on what's available from the pre-built reports that you saw through the themes, the customer area reporter, and the data explorer, which are all generally very similar. But we aim to keep it pretty thematically constant through it, so the terminology won't change dramatically from one to another, but that will expand over the coming months and years. At the beginning of the pandemic, Esri also gave us another COVID response dashboard here. So this one is more to do with helping authorities plan. So it's all demographic information that Esri thought might be useful for authorities tackling the pandemic. So in this case, it's got population by broad age group. So it's showing Ealing compared to London and England. Once again, this can be printed from the top right. And then you've got population age 65 and over, age bands, ethnicity, population density. There's a lot of information in here and about deprivation and health conditions that could be useful when it comes to planning the pandemic response. So once again, that was pre-built by Esri, whereas the one at the top here was built by our team. So a little breathless after that, but we will, if I go back to the beginning, that covers most of the different sections of the site. Appreciate it might be quite fast, but yeah, if anyone's got any other questions about anything I've covered, I'm happy to go back and show in a bit more detail now as well.
I've got a question, please.
Sure.
When will all the information from the census feed into this? Because a lot of it is based on projections. I'm not sure how the GLA does its projections, but it's so good that now we will have the information from the census. But when will that feed through, do you think?
So some of the data from that should be available later this year, shouldn't it, Rajiv? The highest level stuff. Or is it beginning of next year?
Yeah, Ryan, sorry if I can come in. So Toby,
Sure.
The census 2021 has just concluded. Well, the first phase has concluded, which is collecting all the information from households. There's a second element, which is called the census coverage survey, which is currently ongoing, and that should be carrying on for the next couple of months until September. And then ONS needs to do all the data quality assurance and various sorts of stuff and analysis. So the intention, according to ONS, to release the first outputs of the census is 1 year from Census Day this year, which is 21st March. So the earliest we can look at some of the headline stats to come through are in March 2022.
Okay. Well, that's great to know that's on the horizon, because it's just be so good to have the latest data at your fingertips. And apparently it was a 93% response rate for the census in London, which is really good. And Actually, Ealing and Hounslow CVS helped in terms of people who couldn't get online. We opened up the library for people to take part in it. So that's great that we should be able to start incorporating that data by next month.
You'll start seeing some of these areas here. So the ethnicity of Ealing, you'll start seeing them change from projections through to the actual census results as well as those become available.
That's great. Okay, thanks. Do you want to, I can see some hands up. Ryan, do you want to pick people?
Let me have a look back here. Okay, sorry, I'm just so I can see both at the same time. Give me one moment. So from the chat. Sorry, I can't see. Do you mind picking? I think you just muted.
Do you want to go next?
Yeah, I have a question before I pick, or I'll let Brian go ahead first, and then I'll go ahead and ask my question. Brian, would you like to ask your question, please?
Yeah, hi. I'm Brian Rose. I'm involved in a steering group to set up a social care cooperative covering Ealing. This was initiated by Ealing Council. They're not directly involved, but they're being supportive. And we'll be setting up the co-op with small self-governing circles. So we're very interested in the data for different areas in Ealing. So that when we launch the co-op, we're just in the process of fundraising at the moment as to where people are that need domestic social care who are interested in becoming members of the co-op. It's going to be a democratic co-op, so that the care clients and the care workers and everybody, volunteers, etc., will be all members of the co-op, and that's what we're going to be doing. And the data is obviously very important. So very interesting to see what you've said today. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like the custom area report will probably be one of the handiest things for you if you're looking at small areas there. So the default is the LSOAs there, but once again, if you just zoom in and you can pick whichever areas are most relevant to you at the same time and get your reports that way.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
That's fantastic.
No problem. I hope it helps.
Yeah, I'm sure it will.
Thank you, Brian, for that question, and Ryan for that answer. Coming in actually with my question, I totally impressed with the site and how easily it is to pull out that data. I know there's a lot of hard work that's gone behind in setting the whole thing up, and we're just going to be clicking it to get what we want. In terms of comparability, you mentioned the data is. I know it's an Ealing website or showing the data of Ealing. It's compared to London. If we want the data and only one area, which is the coronavirus section, you were comparing the data with England. Is there a possibility for us to get comparability, not to London, but also vis-a-vis in terms of Ealing and England?
Ealing and England as nationwide data. Yeah. It is possible, but these are pre-built reports supplied by Esri at the moment. So if there was a need for that, we'd need to go back to Esri and essentially get them to supply a tweaked version of the report that has a change on the comparison area. So that's something Rajiv and I could look at separately, but by default, it's still London. That's the main comparison.
All right.
And for some of them, England as well. But it is something. If there is a desperate need for it, we can look into it. Similarly, all of the background data is there. So, say for example, you were looking at the population data. Even though the charts on here may well just show England, London, and Ealing, London, and England. If you wanted to look for Ealing and Hounslow, for example, you can then get that data there and search for it in the Data Explorer, and then go into the detail for whichever comparators you want from there. So I actually have that saved as a pre-built one here. So that would be the population there, and from here you can filter the data to exactly the areas that you need. So even if the chart doesn't show exactly what you want, the Data Explorer will have it in there as well. If you go in and look for the data set, you can download it and take exactly the bits that you need from it.
Okay. And this can't be, this is only a PDF format that we'd be able to download it, not an Excel version.
When you download the report, so you download the data here, which is, you just click on there, it will usually vary depending on what you're looking at. So if you're looking at a map, it will come out as a PDF, and as you can hopefully see in the top right there, it comes out as a Excel. So I'm just opening the file at the moment. But yeah, generally, if you're looking at a table of data, that will come out as an Excel. So yeah, you can see that there on the screen there. It comes out looking almost exactly the same.
Steve, I see you've got your hand up. Do you want to ask a question?
As you know, Toby, I always problem with my mute button. My question was, thus far I've been using the GLA data dump, which this looks extremely similar to, but is there much that's in it that isn't in this, do you think?
So off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly. I think it's built on the same data. So the underlying data, yeah, the underlying Data Explorer will be exactly the same. The main thing here is that we've customized it to host data about Ealing, specifically about the JSNA and the coronavirus one, and that the themes are all primarily focused around Ealing wards. So you've got the wards there, you've got LSOAs, so it's all that pre-built nature of it that is the custom bit that we've got. So if you're looking for Southall, it's a lot quicker to just look at
I
five different
can
areas.
See the advantage of the local one, but it's not quite what Naoki was talking about, but if, for example, you wanted to do, shall we say, some very specific borough comparisons within London, might the GLA site be still worth a look at if you're comparing, say, wanting to compare Ealing data to detailed data in other boroughs, do you think, or is it all?
Yeah, it's always worth looking at a few different sites as well and just seeing which one works better for the type of analysis that you're looking to do at the time. All of the data that's there will be available in the Data Explorer here, but if it is presented differently presented more to your needs in a different site, that definitely works as well. As I say, the underlying data is quite similar. If it does turn out that there is a type of analysis that people need, we can look with Esri about kind of having more reports added to it. There's obviously a bit of a development cost and a time sink into that, but if there's a need from most of our audience and our partners for that, we can definitely add more custom reports to it. It's just once again a matter of sort of time and cost.
Sure. I mean, the main advantage of this seems to be that very able to drill down very locally, which has become more of an issue, I think, recently, because of this issue of trying to look at smaller and more concise pockets of deprivation. So that seems very timely from that point of view, because we've all, certainly as an organization, we found ourselves working in a much more targeted way locally than maybe had previously been the case, and that's to a large extent connected to COVID. So thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem. And just as another point that I forgot to mention earlier, when you're going through the Data Explorer, and as I said, there's the pre-built themes and the custom area reporter that gives you the higher level reports that we're talking about. But if you want to look at for the smaller areas there, you can change the filter on the Data Explorer just to export ones with small areas on it. So it's taking a while to load there, but in the left, you can see there it says the females aged 0 to 15 is available at LSOA, LA, ward, region, and country. And it's now popped up here as well. So you can filter your results here based on those themes, based on the type of geography you want, and based on the source of data that you want. So ONS actually appears on the list here a few times, depending on how they've spelt it when they've uploaded their data. But you would just select the two if you did want them as well. Select LSOA and say crime here. And if you applied that, any search results that you've got would have those different filters applied to them, for which ONS hasn't published any crime data. But if I get rid of that, then you can then see LSOA days. Yeah, here you go. So this is all the ONS published LSOA level data that's available in the whole system. So there's quite a few pages on that and all the different age groups there. But that's the facility that is available to you if you are interested in just that small area data that might not be on the custom theme pages.
Yeah, just to come in quickly. Sorry, just to come in on that point, Steve. We would certainly recommend looking at other sources, largely the GLA data store and NOMIS as well, if there's a very specific need for that type of data. But the remit of the GLA data store and the Ealing data site was slightly different. And although Ealing Data does quite a few things very well, it's not the be-all and end-all of things. So we know some of the limitations, so it won't have as much data as GLA data store has, for example, and primarily because we didn't have the resources to replicate. Plus, it's not also efficient to replicate what the GLA data provides. The strengths of the GLA data store is it's a very, very data heavy site, so it has got lots of data, but what it doesn't do is reporting, and that's what the key emphasis was for our old local solution, and that's why Ealing Data is more heavily focused on reporting, so generating local reports that are more useful to the local context for Ealing and small areas as compared to just data. But you're absolutely right. There's much more data on GLA data store that will be useful. Thanks.
Any more questions for Rajiv or Ryan? No. Well, I'm going to drop into the chat a survey, and it is really, I know everyone's fed up to the back teeth of surveys, but this one takes 60 seconds, and it's just to let us know what you thought of this session today. It's really important to make sure that we can continue to provide sort of training that everyone needs. Also on that, if there's a question about if you work for a housing organisation, we're just asking that because I've sent this invite out to some housing groups as well, because I run a housing campaigning project. So if you can just answer that yes or no, but I thought I'd just explain why there's that question. So I'm just looking what else is in here. So yeah, hopefully that should only take 60 seconds to do that very quick survey.
And I've also added in my contact details and the kind of support that I would be able to provide as from Ealing into the chat.
That's great. And I'm just going to use this time here to let everyone know, if they don't know about the project I run a housing campaigning project that covers both Hounslow and Ealing. And it's really sort of empowering groups which have any sort of housing arm or initiative within their organisation, helping them campaign so the voice of BAME and other vulnerable groups is heard when it comes to housing. So I produced a whole toolbox with everything you need to know about housing. There's a lot of information in there that's relevant to other things. There's videos on things like social media, financial management, everything you really need to know to run a successful group and then have the tools to campaign. So whilst I'm talking about it, I might as well just drop in the link to my toolbox just in case it's relevant for anyone. I will just find the link for a second.
For the survey, we'd require to click on the link which Toby has sent out earlier, and it will automatically take you to a questionnaire, which is maybe a few 60 seconds or so.
60 seconds. That's So thanks. Right, I'm just going to drop in my link to my campaigning toolbox. So do have a look at that. Even if you think, oh, actually, it's not related to housing, there are tools in there that's going to help you about community consultations. Oh, and also report writing. Everyone needs report writing. There's links to videos, so you can have a look at those and maybe fast forward to bits that, or replay bits that are most relevant to you. So
and we'll also be putting up the recording of this event on the website.
I will indeed. Yeah, so you can always. Oh yes, Ryan, are those slides that you showed today, are those available for everyone?
Yeah, they are. They are, and I'll send them over to you, and we can distribute them that way.
Okay, I'll just put my email in the chat as well, and yeah, I will send them out to everyone, and then I can also organise the link of the recording to this.
Cheers. I've just got your email. I'll send it over in a few minutes.
Okay, that's great. Well, all that needs to remain then is to thank you very much, Ryan, and thank you very much, Rajiv, and thanks to everyone who attended today. I hope you find it useful. It's great to know that all that information's at everyone's fingertips, so we can really put together really sort of impactful funding bits, and we can win some more funding. So thank you very much to everyone for joining today.
Thank you, Rajiv and Ryan, for that really good session. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.